After 15 years designing outdoor spaces, I can walk into a backyard and spot a doomed outdoor kitchen in about 10 seconds, a grill island rusting into the patio, a pizza oven that's been cold for 3 summers, a beautiful stone counter already cracked down the middle. Every one of them looked stunning on installation day, and every one of them quietly drained thousands from the homeowner's pocket. Here's the part that gets me. One of these mistakes is being pushed by contractors right now as a premium upgrade, and it's the one I see abandoned faster than anything else. Most of these are completely avoidable if you know what to look for before you spend a dime. Let's get to it, starting with number 10. And number 10, cheap stainless that rusts. You know what sounds like a smart buy? An outdoor kitchen advertised as stainless steel weatherproof. Here's the reality. I worked with a couple near the coast who bought a gorgeous grill island, doors gleaming, the whole thing. Looked perfect on day one. 18 months later, they sent me a photo. The doors were pitted with orange rust spots like a bad case of acne, and the drawer rails had seized solid. The problem is the grade. Most budget outdoor kitchens use 430 grade stainless, which has almost no nickel in it. Nickel is what gives steel its corrosion resistance. What you want is 304 grade, sometimes stamped 18/8, meaning 18% chromium, 8% nickel. Within 2 to 3 years near salt air or even a chlorinated pool, 430 starts rusting from the inside of the panel out, and by then it's bonded into the frame. You can't just buff it off. Instead of trusting the word stainless, ask the supplier point blank for the grade and demand 304 for anything that holds a door, hinge, or fastener. It costs maybe 15% more and lasts 3 times as long, and rust is the slow killer. But the next mistake bakes your whole investment in a single afternoon. Number 9. No shade or cover overhead. Picture an outdoor kitchen sitting in the open middle of a yard, full southern exposure, not a scrap of cover. On a clear summer day, that stainless and stone can hit surface temperatures above 150 degrees, hot enough that you can't rest your hand on the counter, let alone cook comfortably. Nobody wants to stand over a 500-degree grill with the sun cooking the back of their neck, too. So what happens? The space gets used twice, then sits empty all summer. There's a structural cost as well. Constant UV and rain cycling fades powder coatings, cracks sealants, and degrades the gaskets on doors and fridges within a few seasons. A simple covered structure fixes both problems. You don't need a full-roofed kitchen. A pergola with a louvered or slatted top, or even a solid patio cover, knocks the surface temperature down dramatically and shields the appliances. If you go solid roof over a grill, make sure there's at least 8 to 10 feet of clearance above the cooking surface and proper venting, or you'll trap smoke and heat. Get the cover right, and you've doubled the months you'll actually use the space. But shade won't save you if you've picked the wrong surface to cook on. And that's next. Number 8. Wrong countertop material. Here's something most people don't consider. The countertop that's flawless in your indoor kitchen can be a disaster outdoors. I had a client install polished marble around their built-in grill because it matched their patio. Looked like a magazine spread. One winter later, the surface was dull, etched, and stained with rust rings from a cast iron pan. Because marble is porous and acidic spills eat right into it. Outdoor counters face 3 enemies. Indoor ones never do. Freeze-thaw cycling, relentless UV, and grease. Untreated granite needs resealing every year or it drinks in oil and water. Tile cracks and the grout lines turn black with mildew. What holds up? Porcelain slab is the standout. It's rated for freeze-thaw, won't fade in sun, and shrugs off a dropped pan. Sealed concrete is a great budget option if you reseal it every couple of years. If you love the look of stone, go for a honed, sealed granite rather than polished, and confirm it's rated for exterior use. And once your surface can take the abuse, you'll actually want somewhere to use it, which brings me to a mistake almost everyone makes. Number 7. Forgetting the prep counter. Everyone obsesses over the grill. Nobody plans the counter next to it. And then they're standing outside, plate of raw chicken in one hand, tongs in the other, looking around for somewhere, anywhere, to set things down. I see it constantly. A beautiful built-in grill flanked by exactly 4 inches of trim on each side. The thing is, cooking is 90% prep and plating, not just flipping. The trade standard is to allow a minimum of 18 to 24 inches of solid landing space on at least one side of the grill, and ideally both. One side for raw, one for cooked. That separation isn't just convenient, it's basic food safety. If you're getting value out of these, subscribe. I put out videos like this every week. Now, here's the mistake that turns a usable kitchen into one you can only enjoy in broad daylight. Number 6. Skimping on lighting. You spent a fortune on this kitchen, and by 7:30 in the evening you can't see what you're cooking. One homeowner told me their dream setup had a single floodlight bolted to the house, 20 feet away, throwing a harsh shadow right across the grill so they were literally cooking in their own silhouette. Outdoor kitchen lighting has to work in layers. You need task lighting directly over the cooking and prep zones, something in the 3,000 to 4,000 Kelvin range so you can actually judge whether the meat is done, because warm 2,700 Kelvin light makes everything look pinker than it is. Then separate warmer ambient lighting around the seating so guests aren't sitting in an interrogation room. Mount task lights under a pergola beam or a vent hood, not behind you, and make sure any fixture over a cooking area is rated for damp or wet locations and high heat. Get this right, and your kitchen gains 4 or 5 hours of use every evening. But lighting is no good if you've nowhere to keep your gear, and that's the next one people regret. Number 5. Undersized or hidden storage. Here's a scenario I see all the time. Someone builds a stunning outdoor kitchen, then keeps every tool, every utensil, the propane tank, and the cleaning supplies inside the house. So every single cookout becomes a relay race back and forth through the patio door. Within a season, the novelty wears off and the kitchen barely gets touched. And here's the part nobody talks about. Storage isn't just convenience, it's protection. Tools left exposed rust, cushions left out grow mildew, and a propane tank sitting in the sun is a genuine hazard. You want weatherproof cabinetry, marine-grade polymer or 304 stainless drawers with proper gaskets built right into the island. Allow a dedicated, ventilated cabinet for the propane tank because gas is heavier than air and needs to vent low, never sealed in an airtight box. Plan for at least one deep drawer and one full cabinet minimum. Get storage right, and the kitchen actually functions like a kitchen. But all of this assumes you put the grill somewhere safe. And this next mistake is a real fire risk. Number 4. Placing the grill against siding. Let me tell you about a job that still makes me wince. A homeowner tucked their new built-in grill snug against the back wall of the house to save space. Vinyl siding looked tidy. They loved it for one summer. Then, on a hot day with the grill running, they came out to find the siding behind it had warped and sagged into a melted wave. Vinyl distorts at around 165 degrees, and a grill radiates far more than that. A few feet over, and it could have been a structural fire. Grills throw serious radiant heat backward and upward. The standard is to keep a built-in grill a minimum of 10 inches from any combustible wall, and more for the sides, though always check the manufacturer's spec because some require far more. If you must place it near the house, install a non-combustible backing, cement board faced with stone or tile, and leave an air gap behind it. Better yet, orient the cooking zone away from the house entirely. Now, fire is dramatic, but the next mistake does its damage slowly and silently right under your feet. Number 3. No drainage or slope. You'd be amazed how many outdoor kitchens are built on a dead flat slab. Looks fine the day it's poured. Then the first heavy rain comes and the whole cooking area becomes a shallow pond, water pooling around the base of the cabinets and seeping into the bottom of your island. I worked on a property where exactly this happened. Beautiful kitchen, flat patio. 2 winters later, the homeowner called me because the lower cabinet panels had rotted and the toe kick was black with mold. Water had been wicking up the back of the island every time it rained, completely unseen. The fix is simple if you do it before the concrete cures. Any patio surface needs a fall of roughly a 1/4 inch per foot. That's about a 1 in 50 slope, running away from the house and away from the kitchen island. On larger areas, add a channel drain to carry water off entirely, and raise the island's base on a slightly higher curb so the cabinets never sit in standing water. Get the water moving, and you protect everything you've built. But even a perfectly built, perfectly drained kitchen fails if nobody wants to spend time there, and that's number 2. Number 2. All grill, no seating. Here's the trap. People pour the entire budget into the cooking hardware. The biggest grill, the side burner, the pizza oven, and leave nothing for anywhere to sit. So, you get this monument to cooking that the host stands behind alone while everyone drifts back inside to the comfortable chairs. An outdoor kitchen isn't a cooking station, it's a gathering place. Would you build an indoor kitchen with nowhere to eat? The fix doesn't have to be expensive. A simple raised bar along one edge of the island with 3 or 4 stools turns the cook into part of the conversation. Allow about 24 inches of width per stool and a 12-inch overhang on the counter for knee room. Or just position the kitchen so it opens toward an existing seating area rather than facing a fence. The point is to design for the people, not just the appliances. And that idea, designing around how people actually behave, is exactly what makes the number 1 mistake the most expensive of all. Number 1. Building it too far from the house. This is the one contractors love to sell as the premium move. A destination kitchen at the far end of the garden, framed by a view. And it's the single most abandoned feature I encounter. Here's why it matters more than any material or appliance. Where you build determines whether you build at all. I had clients spend a fortune on a stunning kitchen 60 feet down the yard. They used it beautifully for 2 summers. Then, reality set in. Every forgotten utensil meant a long walk back. There was no easy water line, so dishes piled up, and they'd had power run on a long, expensive cable that eventually faulted and needed digging up and replacing. By year 3, it sat unused. And at resale, the surveyor flagged the buried electrical run as non-compliant, knocking real money off the price. The lesson isn't about what you build. It's that an outdoor kitchen lives or dies on its connection to the house. Keep it within 15 to 20 feet of the back door, where you can tie into existing water, gas, and power without trenching the whole yard. Proximity is what gets it used. A modest kitchen by the door beats a showpiece you have to make an expedition to reach. If you've got a few of these, don't panic. Most are fixable without tearing the whole thing out. Start with the one that bugs you most. But before you change anything, you need to see my video on the patio materials that wreck your whole yard. It's on your screen right now. Click it.